Is that your book?
Yes. I want to get rid of this.
Are you gonna burn it?
I'm gonna burn it.
Oh my God.
We're gonna burn it together.
Sarper is willing to do whatever it takes to win Shekinah back, even if that means giving up his treasured book of conquests. But the problem is, giving up his mementos isn't magically gonna fix things. You see, their issues actually run a heck of a lot deeper.
I get mad at her. I don't know why.
Just having a voice and an opinion?
Yes, maybe.
That's not good, babe.
Yeah, you can say that again. It really isn't a good sign that you get mad because, shock horror, your partner has her own voice. But before we dive deeper into their therapy session and the darkest corners of Sarper's mind, let's rewind to the start. So, the last we saw the pair, they'd just met up for the first time after their explosive fight. Now, Shekinah caved in. She decided to give Sarper another chance. But she warned him that chance comes with strings attached. So, when we join them in this episode, after their chat in the restaurant, Sarper wants to show Shekinah something in the back of his car. Yeah, I know, that might sound like the world's worst pickup line, but it's actually true. He really does have something to show her.
You brought all your bottles?
All of them. I really want to destroy them, babe.
You want to destroy them?
Yes.
Finally?
Will you come with me?
Yep, there they are again, these damn bottles. Like, these things have been such a big talking point this entire season that at this point, they probably deserve a spin-off show of their own. These dusty bottles have probably caused more fights than any other empty bottle in the history of mankind. But, as Shekinah once again reminds us, they hold very special significance for Sarper.
These bottles are trophies for Sarper. They represent women he's been with in his past, and they've really caused a lot of issues.
Now, you've got to hand it to Sarper. Like, he really knows what he's doing here, doesn't he? He's massively inflated the significance of a trivial thing, an empty bottle, to the extent that throwing it in the trash, like throwing trash in the trash, is now somehow enough to make Shekinah happy again. It's literally a genius level move from him. And Shekinah is over the moon that he's finally gonna destroy them. But, interestingly, she does make a very astute observation.
But I'm also wondering if this is gonna be like a reoccurring thing where something needs to come to like a drastic measure before he takes action.
What Sarper seems to have a habit of doing, what Shekinah has correctly identified, is that all of these big grand gestures that he does after he's done something wrong as a way of an apology could potentially be seen as quite manipulative. But whatever the case may be, as they head to an old junkyard, Sarper is finally ready to delete his past.
How does it feel?
Take his freedom. Like this. Let it go.
It is, in a weird way, oddly satisfying watching those bottles finally be destroyed. Like, watching Sarper here, it seems almost liberating for him. It seems like a form of therapy. He's letting go of what's been anchoring him to his past. And to be honest, it also looks like it's a lot of fun. But Sarper actually reveals that it has another unintended benefit for him.
To be honest, I wasn't expecting that much, but I mean, smashing them, throwing them, seeing them explode, it's kind of getting rid of my anger.
He says he wants to do this more often, and by that I presume he means not the sleeping with other women and collecting bottles part, but this is actually, he says, a good outlet for my anger. Like, it's the whole rage room, smash room concept, isn't it? People actually pay good money to go into a room and break stuff up, so Sarper might be onto something there. I just hope he doesn't think that that will magically fix his anger issues. Like, letting off some steam is great, I'm all for that, but he also has deeper work to do. But for as beneficial as this has been for Sarper, he says, it's now Shekinah's turn to have some fun. Now, remember, she's hated these bottles with a passion, so I fully expect to see them explode. But, surprisingly, not so much. In fact, it takes her a while to get the hang of it.
Okay.
Good try.
Okay.
Break this one for
Okay.
me. Yeah!
Success at last! Yeah, you've got to imagine that after all the stress and sadness of the last few days, that must have been very cathartic for her. It must have been a great sense of release. Plus, just look at them. They're actually having fun together for a change. I mean, this really does seem like a good step in the right direction. But, believe it or not, this actually isn't the last surprise that Sarper has for Shekinah.
Is that your book?
Yes. I want to get rid of this. All
Are you
my
gonna burn
past.
it?
I'm gonna burn it.
Oh my god.
We're gonna burn it together.
That's right, I didn't think I'd live to see this day. Sarper is not only getting rid of his bottles, he's also getting rid of his Book of Conquests. The grubby old book that he listed every single woman he's ever slept with. Like, that book was so important to him, he referred back to it so often, that it felt like a big part of his personality.
Do you want me to show the book to you?
Don't you dare bring that in front of me.
Like, genuinely, I'm actually astonished that he's giving that up. I thought he might want to keep that as a backup for the next time he messes up. But he is actually, reluctantly, but he is actually burning it.
I was eventually going to destroy my bottles and my black book. I don't want to, but for Shekinah, I know I have to.
Letting go of these mementos of his past is a big deal for Sarper. Like, this is a big step for him. He is really pulling out the big guns to try and make Shekinah happy again. But while it is progress and while Shekinah accepts that, she also knows there's more work to be done. And I suspect Sarper isn't going to be too happy to hear that. I think there's a large part of him that was hoping all of this might be enough for Shekinah, but it isn't.
I'm glad that you did this tonight. And this might be therapeutic to do this, but it's not real therapy. Like, we have to also go to therapy.
Now, Sarper agrees. In fact, he actually tries to make a joke of it. He says to her, tonight's activities, what we've just done, is the beginner class of therapy. It's my therapy 101, he says to her. But Shekinah really isn't in the mood for joking around. She's serious when she says this. Tonight may have been a good first step, but she wants more. She wants him not only to go to therapy, but to stick to therapy.
I want you to be all in. I need you to really want to do this. Do you?
If you say so.
Yeah, I'm not sure that sounds super convincing, does it? Now, when Shekinah picks up on it, when she begins to question it, Sarper gives her the weirdest smile I've ever seen him give. Like, I can't quite figure out whether this is meant to reassure her, or whether this is caused by genuine nerves. Either way, Sarper does promise he'd do anything for her, which makes Shekinah proud and happy. But, proud or not, the truth is she is still harbouring hurt. She's not yet ready to go back to how things were before.
Does this mean that you will come home with me tonight?
One step at a time. We have to go to therapy together. I want to feel more considered.
Now, this clearly takes Sarper by surprise. He was clearly expecting that tonight's big gesture would have been enough to get her to come back home with him tonight. The thing is, and in fact what's really encouraging to see, is that Shekinah is sticking to her guns. She told him from the very beginning, she told him when they were at the cafe last episode that she wouldn't be going back home with him. So the fact that she's staying resolute and sticking to her guns is a very, very good sign. And it actually looks like it's paying off, because the next time we see them, they're getting ready for another big step.
Don't hold back.
Of course.
Okay.
Sarper is taking steps to show that he is willing to make big changes for our relationship by booking a therapy appointment.
Shekinah explains that therapy in Turkey is apparently still a big taboo. It's apparently seen as a form of weakness for men to admit that they need help. That, she explains, makes what Sarper is doing today a really big deal. I'm really happy that he's willing to try it. And surprisingly, Sarper actually takes to therapy like a duck to water. He really seems to embrace it. He immediately begins to open up. Shekinah and I, he tells the therapist, have had some issues in our relationship lately.
What kinds of issues?
Mostly about me. I'm a kind of control freak.
Sarper's visibly uncomfortable while talking, right? Like, just looking at his body language, he's trying to close himself off. But it is notable that he's taken accountability. This is mostly my fault. It's mostly about me. I'm the control freak, he admits. I don't even know why I'm like this, he reveals. I overreact when things are out of my control. And as a way of illustrating his point, Sarper then asks Shekinah to tell the therapist about their last fight, which she does. She tells her about the whole vanity situation, how Sarper wanted to buy a vanity for Shekinah, but when she said she didn't want it, he got out of control.
I don't know. I mean, that was so
I
overreaction.
understand. You were trying to do something nice for me and I wasn't accepting it. And that's the problem with most of our fights.
Is it just me, or is it a little concerning that Shekinah's still taking on some of the blame here? Like, help me understand this. What am I missing? She didn't accept his gift, and that triggered him. He got angry because he couldn't get his way. He wanted to buy something for her, she didn't accept it, and he lost his temper. He blew up over it. Like, what part of that equation, what part of any of this is on her?
He was yelling at me and he grabbed the phone out of my hand, pulled some of my hair out.
Not intentionally. I'm sorry about that.
Now, Sarper does genuinely look sorry here, but being sorry when you're calm is the easy part. The hard part is maintaining control when you're getting angry. So with that in mind, the therapist tries to dig a little deeper. She wants to try and get to the bottom of why it is that Sarper gets so angry. Sarper's response, his explanation, is that he just wants to do nice things for Shekinah. If she doesn't let me, he says, I feel rejected. But, notably, he then goes on to say this.
Normally she's so strong character, but to me submissive. And when I see her strong to me, I have a fear, you know?
Yeah, I'm no therapist, but I think that is a very telling statement. It all comes back to control. Whenever he starts to feel like he's losing control, or as he puts it in his words, when she starts to get a bit rebellious of him, Sarper begins to question whether or not she loves him. Now, this whole issue of the power dynamic, someone being the controlling one and someone being the subservient, willingly subservient, is a dynamic that's entirely up to the couple involved, right? If that's your thing, you do you, right? I'm not judging. But the problem arises when one of the partners isn't on board with it. And from the way that Shekinah's talking, she isn't on board.
I get mad at her. I don't know why.
Just having a voice and an
Yes,
opinion.
maybe.
That's not good, babe.
That's not good, babe. It is a massive understatement. Sarper admits that it sets him off when Shekinah has her own thoughts and opinions. And the crazy thing is, he doesn't understand why that's a problem.
It's not a problem. Yeah.
Now, Sarper actually continues, right? He goes on to say that it also triggers him and makes him angry when she's emotional. Why? Well, because he wants to always make her happy. If he can't, if she's sad, he sees that as a failing of his doing. Whereas Shekinah wants a support system. She wants Sarper to be her shoulder to cry on when, for example, she feels sad or emotional about her distant relationship with her family. Instead, those are the times where Sarper gets angry. So why is that? What's his explanation for that?
Fear of losing her makes me crazy. Fear of that she doesn't love me enough. makes me crazy.
Yes, there are going to be some moments where you doubt.
The therapist responds by telling Sarper that in order to make Shekinah happy, in order to get her to stay, your job isn't to make her happy all the time, but rather to validate her feelings. We're all human. We all feel a certain way. Using that as a rationale or a justification for getting angry is ridiculous. And while the truth is, in this episode, there have been some steps forward, some baby steps in the right direction, this therapist is gonna have her work cut out for her. There's a heck of a lot to unpack here.